All right, welcome. Today, we're going to break down the fundamentals of agile software development, and we're pulling everything straight from the official ISTQB guide. So whether you're an engineer, a student, or really anyone involved in making software, think of this as your core explainer. Let's get into it.
Okay, here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the why, why Agile even exists. Then we'll dive into its core principles. After that, we'll look at some real-world frameworks, and we'll wrap up with the tools that make it all click.
So let's start at the beginning. You have to wonder, why did the software world need something like Agile in the first place? Well, to really get it, you've got to understand the problems it was designed to fix. So the old way of doing things, what many call waterfall, was super rigid and sequential. It was like an assembly line. Developers would finish their part, then toss it over the wall to testers. This created these deep silos where everyone just passed responsibility down the line, like a hot potato. And you can imagine, from a testing standpoint, finding a massive bug right at the end of that process? It was a nightmare. Incredibly expensive and frustrating for the whole team. This is where Agile comes in and just shatters those silos with what it calls the whole team approach. And listen, this isn't just about everyone being friends. It's about being way more efficient. When testers are in the room from day one, they can actually help developers write better, more testable code. You're preventing bugs before they're even written. Suddenly, quality becomes everyone's job, all the time. And what really fuels this whole collaborative engine is fast, constant feedback. Because teams work in short cycles, they can check in with the customer early and often to make sure they're building the right thing. They can find and squash bugs while they're still small and cheap to fix. And they get a real data-driven feel for their own productivity, what we call velocity in Agile. And just to be clear, it's not about working faster, it's about finding a consistent, predictable pace. Okay, so we've seen the problem Agile was trying to solve. Now let's look at the document that started it all, the Agile Manifesto. When this thing came out back in 2001, it was, frankly, a pretty radical statement. It proposed a completely new way to think about building software. This right here is probably one of the most famous and most misunderstood lines from the manifesto. It's really important to get this right. It does not mean no documentation. What it does mean is that our main yardstick for progress should be software that actually works, not a giant pile of paperwork describing how it's supposed to work. It's just a super practical shift in priority. The whole manifesto is built on these 4 core values you see here. It's about valuing people and how they talk to each other more than rigid processes. It's about working with your customer instead of battling over a contract. And, maybe most importantly, it's about embracing change instead of just blindly following a plan that's probably already out of date. It's a huge shift toward being more adaptable and, well, more human in how we build things.
And this gets to the absolute heart of it, empowerment. Instead of some top-down command and control structure, Agile puts its trust in the team that's actually on the ground doing the work. It trusts them to figure out the best way to hit their goals. And that trust, that belief in the team is what makes everything else possible.
Okay, so these values sound great, right? But how do they actually translate into what a team does every single day? Let's take a look at a couple of the most popular Agile methods out there.
Here's a pretty good way to think about these two. Extreme programming, or XP, is all about the craft of software. It's focused on technical excellence and writing really high-quality code. Scrum, on the other hand, is more of a framework for managing the work. So you could say XP gives you the engineering skills to build a high-performance engine, while Scrum gives you the roadmap and team structure to build the whole car and actually get it across the finish line.
XP itself is guided by these 5 core values. Things like communication and feedback lead to practices you may have heard of, like pair programming. Simplicity is all about not over-engineering things. Just build what you need right now. And it really takes courage and respect to constantly improve your code and make sure the team is building quality in from the very start.
Scrum, on the other hand, gives us a really clear structure with 3 key roles. You've got the product owner, who decides what gets built. You've got the Scrum team, who decides how to build it. And then you have the Scrum Master, who's like a coach for the team, making sure the process runs smoothly and clearing any roadblocks out of their way. In Scrum, all the work happens in these short, repeating cycles called sprints. And at the end of every single sprint, the goal is to have a potentially shippable product increment. Now that phrase, potentially shippable, is absolutely critical. It means the feature is 100% done. It's tested, it's integrated, it works. You could release it to customers right then and there. This is so important because it stops that nasty technical debt from piling up over time. So, with all this stuff happening in these fast cycles, how on earth do teams keep track of everything? Well, that brings us to our last section, making the work visible. Because in Agile, there's a simple rule. If you can't see the work, you can't manage it.
Now, what's so powerful about a Kanban board like this is how it makes the entire workflow visible at a glance. It's so much more than a to-do list. You can literally see how much time work is spending in each column: analysis, development, tests. This instantly shows you where your bottlenecks are. I mean, if that tests column is overflowing with tickets, you know exactly where the team needs to swarm to get things moving again. Right, so Kanban is more than just a board. It's a whole system for optimizing flow. And these work in progress, or WIP limits, are a key part of that. They seem kind of counterintuitive at first, but they are incredibly powerful. By limiting how many things the team can work on at once, you force everyone to collaborate and actually finish tasks before pulling in new ones. The mantra is stop starting and start finishing. Now, let's talk about a core building block in Agile, the user story. Just look at that format. It's not some dry technical requirement. It frames the work from the user's point of view. It forces the team to constantly ask, who are we building this for, and why does it actually matter to them? And a user story is so much more than just that one sentence on a card. This model of the 3 C's is key to understanding it. A user story isn't a static document. It's an invitation to a conversation. It starts as a simple card, which is a promise for a future conversation, and it ends with confirmation, the concrete, objective tests that prove the story is truly done. And this is just a brilliant illustration of how that third C, confirmation, works in the real world. You see the user story up top, I want to pay using Visa. But then look below it. It's tied directly to specific, step-by-step acceptance tests. This just removes all the guesswork. The team knows precisely what done looks like. Either the feature passes these tests or the work isn't finished, period. This is how high-performing Agile teams bake quality right into their process. So when you boil it all down, Agile isn't just a collection of practices. It's a mindset. It's a mindset built on collaboration, on feedback, and on empowering people, which leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. If this approach works so well for building something as complex as software, where else could we apply it? What other huge, complex problems could we start to solve if we worked this way?